Hey everybody, this is my 1,000-mile review of the XPro DLX Storm 150. I'm going to go over some of the pros and then the cons, and then give you my evaluation as to whether I think this would be a good buy for you or a waste of your money. The first thing I would say as far as the pros are concerned is the cost. Obviously the point of entry is very low. I think you can still get this bike to your door for about $1,400. I got it to mine for about $1,300. Prices have gone up in the last year as of the recording of this video, which is August 2025. A couple of things. The front end, the forks are a little too soft for anybody that's about 150 pounds and heavier. And so there's a couple of things you can do. The easiest thing is obviously to change out the fork oil weight, and I think it comes with 5 weight in it, and I put 20 weight in it, and that helped tremendously. I rode this bike at Uwharrie National Forest, and with the front forks in the stock configuration, and they were bottoming out all over the place. And then when I went with 20 weight, it was much better. For reference, I'm a 175 pound rider. So maybe some preload spacers that you could put in there, remove those caps, and then put some preload spacers in the inside. And there's other videos that tell you how to source those. I didn't do that. I found that just putting 20 weight fork oil in it worked just fine. Ongoing with the pros, nice CNC machined aluminum alloy hubs. The rims were steel. I put Tusk Impact on to replace it, and put a 19-inch Kenda Trackmaster rear tire on the front, and just shaved off some of these side lugs to get it to clear the fork tubes as well as the fork shields. And that is fantastic. I run about 18 to 20 psi. If I'm doing rougher environment, rougher terrain, I'll do 18 psi, and that along with the shocks really absorbs the bumps. The brakes on this bike are fantastic. I have changed the fluid on it once. The brake fluid, I would go ahead and just change it as soon as you get it to some good quality Valvoline .3 or .4 fluid. But they were really good right out of the box. Same thing with the back. I changed the rim to a Tusk Impact rim. I did bend the rim. I did bend both the front and the rear rims, but I was riding really hard and I hit some really sharp rocks. Surprisingly, the stock tubes held up pretty well on the stock tires. The stock tire is way too short as far as the sidewall height of it, and so that's why I recommend getting either a taller tire or going with something like this Kenda Trackmaster 190/19. Just be aware that when you run this, that you're going to have to do some sidewall, some lugs. You're going to have to shave some of those off to clear the fork tubes as well as the shields. The headlight is actually pretty bright. It's a nice stock LED light, and it works really well. The way that the headlight is configured, though, where it hooks up inside here behind this wiring harness, as compared to where it is supposed to plug in down here, this doesn't match up, and so you had a little quality control issues there. That's supposed to go down in that tube, and I have yet to actually move this whole assembly down so that this will fit better in that fender tube right there. These are actually not Renthal bars. These are the stock bars, and I really like these bars. These are alloy bars, more than likely aluminum alloy. Very nice. The hardware on this is very nice. The quality is really on par. As far as some of this stuff is really on par with anything that you would see with some of these Japanese counterparts. Very nice. Digital dash, very nice. Turn signals, all of these things work really well. The grips that came with this were great. I did change them out because I just wore them out, and I installed these Tusk D-Flex protectors for my hands. I just wanted to make sure. I do a lot of woods riding and a lot of harder riding in the woods, and I want to make sure I protect my hands because my hands are my job. The frame on this bike is very robust, very well made. I have jumped this bike on my 175-pound frame, and it is very well made. Even the rear subframe is really nice and sturdy. I did change out to an RK chain, RK heavy duty chain, Japanese chain, so I can't speak as to whether the chain that comes stock with this is going to be worth a flip or not. I really don't know. I don't know if it stretches out too much or not. I can't tell you, so just FYI. I did change to a 45 tooth rear sprocket, and I did that because I wanted more torque for off-woods riding. I do have a 15 tooth front sprocket on the front. If you're going to ride primarily on road, I would recommend a 16 tooth 428 front sprocket and keep the stock 41 rear sprocket. Other than that, you're going to do just great. This bike will, when it's got a 1641 sprocket set up, this bike will do you know, about 59 miles an hour top speed. It'll do a sustained 55 if you have good street tires on it, but you will burn through those tires quickly if you're riding mostly on the pavement. Swing arm is not too bad. It's pretty robust. The only thing I don't like about it is these adjusters were horrible. I took them out and I put this bolt on the original adjuster did not screw into the swing arm. It just sits there in a hole. And so what I did is I made my own. I went to Ace Hardware, bought some stainless steel bolts and did that, and it works a whole lot better. Couple of things. Let's talk about some of the cons. One of the obvious cons, you can see that this is a D&M rear shock, and this is obviously not the OEM shock. The OEM shock quality is very good, but the problem is that the shock itself is just way too soft, and there's some inconsistency with it. This D&M shock is a world better. I was constantly bottoming this thing out, tearing out the electronics from underneath it, which really didn't matter anyways, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But I just went ahead and installed this D&M MKAR 320 millimeter shock, and that is a 1,000-pound shock, and that has worked very well. You can put enough preload on there to keep it from bottoming out, even for a 180 to 200-pound rider, and you can adjust the speed at which the shock moves. So your rate, you can adjust that, and it works really well. The bike actually, as far as like the kickstart's concerned, the kickstart works very well. But let's get to some of the cons. Let's get to the engine. Let's talk about the carburetor. The stock carburetor is actually a pretty good carburetor, but you're going to have to source new jets because it comes at least the main jet comes way too lean from the factory. And I'm not going to tell you what I use because it doesn't matter. Your elevation may be different. The couple other things, the exhaust is very loud. If you live in a residential neighborhood and you're riding around the yard, you just need to be aware of that. This is not something you want to be riding around after dark, you know, putting around in the yard and thinking this is not going to be a quiet bike. If you live in an area where you've got trails to ride and it's kind of in a neighborhood, you just need to be aware that this thing is a little bit loud. Let's talk about what goes along with that rear shock, that stock rear shock bottoming out all the time. You will totally destroy your rear fender. You can see I have cut it off, and I did have this bike street legal for the first year that I owned it, and then after that I turned my plates in and just decided to make it a dirt machine. But you will constantly eat up this rear fender. Even if you shave this off and you angle your plate out a little bit more, it will still get eat by this tire. It happens a lot less. It's less frequent when you put the shock on there, but the way this thing is designed, it's just angled down way too far. It needs to be angled more up like this. Of course, it makes it harder to see, but you will destroy this whole rear tail light system. Turn signals again, turn signals on the front and the rear, and headlights very good. The rear light, it kind of sucks. It leaks, and so you're going to have to, if you're going to run a rear tail light, you're going to have to put that some silicone caulk all the way around it so that when it rains, it doesn't leak through there and burn that light out. You also are going to need to put some silicone caulk right here where the wires plug into it. That's going to be necessary because, again, if any water gets in there, it will short that out and that thing will never work again. My recommendation, because this thing is so floppy, is go with another bike. Go with a different bike if you want something that's going to have you know, a very robust tail or fender, so that this doesn't keep happening to you. Or you can get you can tidy this up a little bit and make this a little bit more low profile. And I actually have something that I'm planning on doing in the future for that if I ever want to go back on the road with it. Now let's get back to the engine and talk about some of the cons. One of the biggest problems with these, this is a YX140 engine. I know this is called a DLX Storm 150, but this is a YX140. And the problem with YX140s, there's two things. You've got two types of YX140 engines. The first kind is where the clutch is mounted on the top right here. Okay, that's not what this is, because this is an electric start. They didn't have room to still keep the clutch at the top. They put the actuator arm in the front. And as a result, that ends up, a lot of people burn out clutches early in this configuration of engine with the crank mounted clutch. A lot of people have complained about that online already. Another thing too is that, and this is the real issue that people are having, is that on all these YX engines, whether you got a top mount clutch or a front mount clutch, crank mount or otherwise, the real problem with these YX engines is they are very reliable except third gear. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll walk over here for just a minute. This is a shift drum, and these are the shift forks. This is what helps shift from gear to gear when you're slamming through the gears. Look at that. That is not supposed to be there. What happens is this thing wears down over time on these YX engines, including that little tip right there. The tip is almost completely gone on that one. It's still there on this other one. And what happens is that this thing jumps in and out of third gear, and over a period of time, as it jumps, it'll be going along and it'll go. When it does that, the entire gear shift assembly is slapping back and forth inside the engine and slams into the engine case right here. And see that? It will fracture this little C-shaped thing that holds that transmission bearing shaft, or a transmission bearing shaft that goes right here. It slaps that out of there, and then if you keep riding it like that, you will have catastrophic failure and you will have to replace your entire engine. So this little piece right here is the same piece that goes right here where my pinky finger is, and when the engine starts doing that, it is not your clutch. Remember, it's not your clutch. It's your shifter drum, which I just showed you, and this right here has to be replaced. At least that fork, or you can get this whole thing brand new for like 30 bucks on Amazon. That's got to be replaced, and the gears have to be replaced to keep this from happening, or you will destroy the inside of your engine. Let's walk back over here to the bike. So to replace that, to fix that, you have to split these cases. You got to take this engine out and split the cases on this and replace both the transmission gears as well as that shift drum. So if you can't do that, I don't think it's worth owning any pit bike with a YX 140 or a YX configuration engine in it, because they've all got this problem. If you putt around in the yard, you don't ride this bike hard, it's not going to be an issue. But if you ride these bikes hard, the way that they were intended to be, these are race engines. These engines are used in races. If you do that, whether you do off-road or do track racing, you're eventually going to run into that third gear slipping problem, which is really a transmission issue, and the whole transmission's got to be replaced. You've got to split the cases, and you've got to have the technical proficiency to do that. If you do not have that proficiency, I do not recommend that you get this motorcycle, because this eventually will become a problem for you with all of these engines. So there's my review. Hope you enjoyed it.